Welcome, deep divers. Get ready for an exploration that really shifts our perspective on artificial intelligence. We're talking about moving far beyond the usual headlines, chatbots and self-driving cars, into something potentially, well, transformative, a new approach called Sophimatics. Our mission today is really to uncover how Sophimatics aims to redefine AI right from its philosophical foundations. It's asking these huge questions about what it means for a machine to have a mind, or to use language, even perceive time. And the core question we're kind of grappling with is, can AI move past just, observing behavior and truly deeply understand?
Exactly. And we're building our understanding today on a really compelling stack of sources. Primarily, we'll be drawing insights from Sophimatics, Intentionality, Time and Language in AI by Gerardo Ivan and Giovanni Iovana. But we're also looking at some foundational research, too. Basti from 2014, Madel and colleagues in 2015, Michon's 1988 work on Fraser's ideas from 82, Vernon and Furlong from 2007, and Wang et al. From 2019. So yeah, it's a pretty rich foundation for this discussion.
Okay, so quite a bit to dig into there. Let's unpack this. We're going to explore how AI could maybe become more reflective, more goal-directed, and maybe even operate with a clearer sense of, well, what's appropriate or ethical. So to begin, we absolutely have to talk about the cornerstone of Sophimatics, intentionality. When we say an AI system has intentionality in this framework, what are we actually getting at? Because it sounds like it's trying to capture something much deeper than just, what we see a system doing.
That's right, it goes deeper. Basti's work, for instance, argues that intentional acts aren't just about the actions themselves. They need these fundamental elements, like understanding what words refer to reference and whether statements are truth conditions. These are, absolutely crucial for any kind of meaningful reasoning and, well, effective information processing.
Right. So without those, what's the core limitation? What's missing in AI today?
Well, without those logical and semantic dimensions, current AI systems often struggle, sometimes profoundly. They can generate output, sure, but they can't really represent or evaluate the relevance, the value of that output for their own internal purposes.
Yeah.
It's almost like they're giving you an answer without fully grasping why that answer matters or even what it's really about. Sophmatics tries to tackle this head-on by putting something called objective intentionality into practice. This allows the AI systems to represent, categorize, and maybe even justify their own internal states. You could maybe think of them as their mental states in a way that's actually intelligible to us, to human users. Logical relationships get expressed in terms of intentional meaning. So this means the AI can provide causal explanations for its outputs
Okay.
that are understood as intended by users and, importantly, can align with specified ethical rules.
That directly hits on one of the biggest criticisms of AI right now, doesn't it? That unintelligible reasoning, the whole black box problem, where we just don't know why it decided something.
Yeah.
So is Basti basically claiming Sophimatics can kind of pull back that curtain off of real transparency?
That is the claim, yes, because it's designed specifically to formalize this objective intentionality. The system can adapt to new data by aligning its internal logic with user intents and predefined ethical rules. But what's really fascinating here, and very important to stress, is the deliberate distinction Basti makes. It's made clear that while AI can embody aboutness, so it can refer to things, assess truth, it does not embody self-reflective consciousness.
Right. That's crucial.
Yeah, it's not about building sentient AI. It's about building AI that has a much more profound and, importantly, verifiable understanding of what it's doing.
That's a really critical distinction to keep in mind.
Yep.
Okay, now let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about something we probably don't think about enough with AI time. Usually in AI, time is just timestamps, right? Event A happened at time X. But Sophimatics seems to propose something much more complex, almost, well, human-like. How does that work?
You're right. Conventional AI often falls short there. Our human conscious perception of time, it's a neurocognitive process. It forms dynamically from discrete bits of sensory information, as Madel and his colleagues described back in 2015. Our minds are constantly binding temporal events together, creating this sense of flow, of continuity, that conventional AI systems, just by adding timestamps, they simply fail to capture. They miss the dynamic relationships between events.
So how does Sophimatics actually build time into the system then? Is it like different layers or internal clocks ticking away?
It's a bit of both, actually. In Sophimatics, each sort of cognitive entity has its own internal clock. It's aware of the exact time, and it can represent time by calculating differences across intervals. But what's more, it adds these temporal layers as extensions to objects. So this means each cognitive act gets embedded in at least 3 temporal layers. These indicate temporal context over both short-term and long-term memory.
Wow, okay, 3 layers.
Yeah, and the sophisticated layering allows for constant recontextualization. As new information comes in, it continuously influences how these entities represent their current temporal context.
And this leads to the idea of meaning itself kind of emerging from time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How does our sense of now fit into this, like Madeline et al.'s explored?
Exactly. Our conscious now isn't some fixed point in time. It's continuously reconstructed based on what we anticipate happening next and what we remember from the past. Sophimatics tries to mirror this dynamic process. It's continuously deconstructing and reconstructing temporal contexts. And this lets it deal with past events, the current situation, and future goals all together, leading to, hopefully, overall coherence, better situational awareness, and a much stronger basis for real sense-making.
This gets even more complex, maybe wilder, when we bring in Fraser's idea of the 7 layers of temporal integration, which Michon talked about. How does Sophimatics use these different modes of time? Can an AI system actually switch between them?
Yes, it absolutely can, and that's a major differentiator. Conventional AI usually just relies on one mode, that's simple Newtonian metric time, like a stopwatch for everything. But Sophimatics can activate the appropriate temporal mode from these 7 layers Fraser identified.
7 layers? Like
Yeah.
what?
Well, they range from atemporality, prototemporality, eotemporality, biotemporality, isotemporality, new temporality, all the way to hypertemporality. Think of it like the AI having access to different clocks or maybe lenses for viewing time.
Okay.
So for a precise control task, like say guiding a robotic arm, it uses that familiar Newtonian time. But for understanding something like physiological or affective events, maybe in a health monitoring system, it might shift to biotemporality, which reflects the rhythms of living systems.
It's interesting.
And here's where it gets really reflective. For higher level reasoning, like planning a complex project or answering those tricky hypothetical what-if questions, it can activate new temporality. New temporality involves a reflective consciousness of time understanding beginnings, middles, and ends.
That feels like a huge step up.
It is. This architectural advantage is pretty profound. It lets the system represent and evaluate dynamic relations and states, capture events as they actually unfold, and even reinterpret past sequences of events if new data comes in. This forms a really strong basis for genuine sense-making and, crucially, for continuous adaptive learning in a world that's, let's face it, pretty unpredictable.
Yeah, that's a massive leap from just processing data in a straight line. Okay, let's pivot again. Let's talk language. We've talked about what it thinks and when it thinks it. But how does Sophimatics approach language? How is this different from the way our current language models work?
The key difference lies in understanding the dialogic nature of language. Vernon and Furlong described this well back in 2007. Language isn't just about transmitting packets of information back and forth. It's used for coordinating shared meaning, both cognitive and affective meaning. And it's about the co-construction of understanding between people, yes, but also between language itself and individuals.
Right, so it's not just about spitting out grammatically correct sentences. It's more about negotiating context and achieving some kind of shared understanding.
Precisely. Sophimatics-based language systems aim to embed language in these deep dialogic and ontological frameworks. This helps support crucial social processes like context negotiation, figuring out what the user actually intends, and the evolution of semantic categories. And critically, these categories aren't seen as static or fixed. They have fuzzy, adaptive, contextual boundaries that must evolve with continuous use. Language changes.
So what's the main problem then with the conventional symbol systems that AI often uses for language?
Well, Vernon and Furlong pointed out that these traditional symbol systems just can't really cope with the inherently evolving nature of language. Meaning, sense, context, these things are continuously defined and redefined through interaction. Language isn't fixed. It has to be continuously generated and revised in use.
That makes a lot of sense. So, okay, if a Sophimatics-based system runs into ambiguity, or maybe it just doesn't quite get what a user is saying, does it just give you a canned response like, sorry, I don't understand? Or does it do something smarter?
It aims for something far more sophisticated. Its adaptive language approach is all about supporting that co-construction of context, of intentions, of shared significance. So if it gets language it can't fully interpret, it won't just default to some pre-programmed I don't know, message. Instead, it will actively try to interpret it by asking the user questions, asking them to refine and clarify their intentions.
Ah, so it engages in a dialogue to figure it out.
Exactly. It's an iterative process. And this isn't just for clarity's sake. It also helps the AI system align itself with the user's ethical beliefs over time, making it potentially much more adaptable and nuanced in its interactions.
Okay, so let's try and bring all these threads together, this intentionality, the dynamic sense of time, this adaptive language. Where does this really leave us compared to the AI approaches we see dominating today, especially the ones dealing with sequential data like text or time series? What's the fundamental distinction?
Yeah, the contrast is actually quite stark when you look at it. Many contemporary statistical models, things like those many-layered LSTM RNN systems or Convey LSTM that Wang and colleagues discussed in 2019, they are primarily designed to predict future sequences based on past patterns they find in the data. And they're powerful systems, make no mistake. They train on huge amounts of sequences to find statistically correlated features. They get very good at predicting what is likely to happen next, but they generally don't grasp the reasons or the underlying causes behind those events. They know the pattern, not the why.
Ah, okay. So Sophimatics is aiming for the why.
Precisely. Sophimatics integrates time not just as sequence, but as meaningful temporal context directly into its reasoning processes. This allows it to incorporate time sequences with intent and with ethical analysis. It emphasizes meaning and how these temporal contexts help achieve meaningful outcomes. That's a really significant departure from purely correlational models. And furthermore, as Wang et al. Also noted, those traditional statistical techniques aren't always that efficient when you're dealing with really complex stuff like nonlinear, high-dimensional temporal data, or for tasks like extrapolation predicting beyond the range of the training data or trying to reason when you only have sparse data points.
Right.
This really underscores the need, the imperative almost, to integrate spatiotemporal modeling with these deeper ontological and semantic approaches. You need that to truly incorporate higher level information and reasoning. It's about moving beyond just pattern matching towards something like genuine understanding.
Wow, what a deep dive indeed. This exploration has, well, it's really shown how Sophimatics represents a potentially fundamental shift in how we think about artificial intelligence. It's aiming to imbue AI with intentionality, a really profound understanding of dynamic time, and truly adaptive language, moving far beyond just spotting statistical patterns.
And it's so crucial to keep reiterating that core distinction we talked about earlier. Sophimatics aims for aboutness, for objective intentionality, letting AI grasp reference and truth conditions in a way we can actually verify. And this is deliberate, it explicitly excludes subjective self-consciousness. It's not trying to create sentient AI, but rather deeply intelligent, understanding, and maybe more accountable systems. So for you, our listener, perhaps here's a thought to mull over. If AI systems could genuinely grasp intent, navigate these complex contexts, and align their actions with our ethical frameworks in such an explicit, verifiable way, how might that fundamentally transform our relationship with technology? What new horizons for human understanding, maybe even collaboration, could that open up for us? Something to think about until our next deep dive.